you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Bittt.tb. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Saturday, June 29. It is day 2 of the NHL draft. Day 2, that's right. And I'm here. It's Saturday, and I'm here. It's 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time for all of you watching in Montreal. And yes, I'm here. No days off. We didn't come here to go on vacation. We came here to work. And the Sick Podcast, of course, our NHL draft coverage 2024, brought to you by Betway. Betway, a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. And so I want to thank them for everything that they were able to do for us and accommodate us and facilitate everything. It's been absolutely fantastic. All right, okay. So the Montreal Canadiens today, day 2, they had 8 picks in the draft. 8 in the draft. They had 2 yesterday in round 1, so that's a total of 10 picks. Why don't we bring up their picks right before I introduce our guest? Let's show them. There you have it. Yesterday, as you know, 5 overall, Ivan Demidov. 21 overall, Michael Hage. 70 overall, Aatos Koivu. 78 overall, Logan Sawyer. 102 overall, Owen Protz. 130, Tyler Thorpe. 134, Mikis Vanagas. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Let me do it again. Mikis Vanagas. Okay. 166 overall, Ben Merrill. 210 overall, Makar Cannon. 224 overall, Rasmus Bergqvist. But you know what? It almost seems that after the Koivu pick of today, that it didn't matter what the Canadiens were going to do. They couldn't do no wrong because members of the fan base were very, very happy. Very happy. As a matter of fact, a lot of people were singing, even here in Vegas, Felicità. E tenersi per mano, andare lontano la felicità. E i tuoi sguardi innocenti in mezzo alla gente la felicità. E restare vicini come bambini la felicità, felicità. Felicità è un cuscino di piume, l'acqua del fiume che passa e che va. E la pioggia che scende dietro le tende la felicità. E abbassare la luce per fare pace la felicità, felicità. Senti nell'aria c'è già la nostra canzone d'amore che va. I haven't been singing in the casinos of Las Vegas for a couple of reasons. One, I've been losing a lot of money, so there's nothing to sing about. And number 2, I'm actually scared I'm going to get picked up here and they're going to take me away from my job. I'm going to end up going on concert or something like that. But anyway, okay, well, without further ado, why don't we bring in our guy? He is a gentleman with a scouting background in Quebec. As a matter of fact, he's so much in demand. He is co-host of the podcast called Processus on La Commission Athlétique, along with Mathias Brunet of La Presse newspaper, also a collaborator on BPM Sports. And yesterday he followed along with Mathias for La Presse. And earlier today, he and Mathias did something for La Commission Athlétique. Without further ado, let's bring him in. Simon, the Snake Boisvert, or as I like to call him, Serpent. Serpent, what's going on?
Tired.
Yeah, you listen. I understand what you're going through, but I hear you, man.
Busy week, very busy week.
Very busy week. I too am on. Somebody sent me a note yesterday. Said you have an incredible amount of energy, and I said, yeah, maybe a little bit, but it's more so adrenaline. Sometimes I actually feel like I'm running on fumes. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
All right, we're gonna get to today's draft picks in just a couple of minutes, but because you weren't with me yesterday, I want to ask you your opinion on Ivan Demidov at 5, Michael Hage at 21. Let's start with Demidov.
Well, I last night I gave the Habs an A+ mark for their draft because I love both players. Demidov was number 3 on my list, and I think he's probably the best draft pick that the Habs have done. Best forward that the Habs have drafted in probably the last 40 or 50 years. And I've been following this for 50 years. This is a guy who's highly skilled. He's absolutely spectacular. He's worth the price of admission. And I've always said that the Canadiens, they have a nice base of forwards, but that they lacked this genuine superstar. And I think this guy is going to be a superstar and a 90 to 100 point player at some point at his peak. And he pushes down. When we talked about this guy being like Suzuki, I'd rather have him as the number 3rd or 4th best forward on the team. He's kind of going to be pushing them down. And this is a good thing if Nick Suzuki is not the best forward anymore. It's nothing against him. It's just a matter of building a championship team.
It's funny you say that because I had Grant McCagg on yesterday of the Recruits Draftcast podcast, of course, and recruits.ca. And Grant said, Demidov will, of course, be in Russia for the next season.
Yeah.
He believes he'll be in the KHL. And then after that, he's going to come to the National Hockey League, and he's going to start off with the Montreal Canadiens right away. I asked him where he sees him. He said on a line with Suzuki and Slavkovsky.
Yeah. And I think he has a pretty good chance of winning the Calder Trophy. Although I'm getting ahead of myself because you don't know who's going to be in the league. There's James Haggins coming in next year, who's pretty good. But I think he's going to be at least a Calder Trophy finalist if he's not injured. He's going to have an impact right away because he's going to be 20 years old when he gets here. And I could easily see him score 60 points the first season he gets to Montreal.
If Demidov was draft eligible 2 years ago when the draft took place in Montreal, the year of Slavkovsky, the year of course, Shane Wright and Logan Cooley, and of course the defenseman that went second overall to the New Jersey Devils,
Simon Nemec.
Yes, Simon Nemec. Yes, and also there were other defensemen that were also in that draft. One of which
Iricek,
yes, one of which I was going to say was Iricek, and we saw him and his brother here. Actually, they're staying at the same hotel that we're at. His brother, of course, was drafted yesterday. But where would Demidov have gone, in your opinion, if he would have been part of that draft 2 years ago?
1 or 2. Because today I was asked by Mathias on Processus, who do you pick, Slavkovsky or Demidov? I said, look, they're complementary players.
Yeah.
One of them is a huge guy. He's a monster who's going to be able to score goals and make plays. And you got this guy who's a little bit smaller, but who has better hands. Look, it's heads or tails because they both bring something that is complementary. And it's exactly the 1-2 punch that the Habs needed.
Listen, I could be wrong. Only they know this for a fact. And I'm talking about the Canadiens brass of Nick Bobrov and Martin Lapointe and, of course, Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes. But based on the way they spoke about him yesterday, Kent Hughes did, and based on the way Bobrov and Martin Lapointe spoke about Demidov earlier today, I mean, I think the answer to the question I asked is actually Demidov. I think he's the guy that they would draft first overall if he would have been a draft eligible 2 years ago when the draft took place in Montreal. In case you missed it, let's play Martin Lapointe earlier today when asked about what he believes are things that he likes to hear during the interviews and what Demidov may have said that impressed him most. Let's bring it up.
Qu'est-ce que vous recherchez dans une entrevue? C'est quoi vos indicateurs qui vous disent que ça, c'est le genre de personnalité que vous recherchez?
Mais tu l'as vu quand il a monté sur le stage, il y avait un petit flair qui était confiant, donc c'est de la bonne confiance, bien placée. On aime sa combativité. C'est un jeune qui veut être un game breaker, qui veut soulever les foules, très dimensionnel. Puis moi, je pense que c'est le vol du draft, c'est le joueur qu'on recherchait, puis on était chanceux de l'avoir au numéro 5.
Martin, as-tu l'impression?
The Canadians are very conservative in their approach. For Kent Hughes to admit yesterday that they obviously, without, they weren't paying attention to Celebrini because they knew he was going to go first. So, of all the other players, that Demidov was the first guy on their list. Martin Lapointe to tell you today, c'est le vol du draft. We believe he's the steal of the draft. He also talked about the way Demidov carries himself. It's funny and probably stupid at the same time, but I'll bring it up. There's a clip going around. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. When he takes off his suit jacket and he hands it off to someone who was there to take it, just his silky smooth hands, the way he just drops it off, that's the way he plays. He's got silky smooth hands. Now, very interesting stuff today from Nick Bobrov, of course, who can go to Russia, whose dad works for SKA, who had intel on Demidov and knew stuff about Demidov, the family, knew stuff about his hockey, more so than anybody else. The Canadians had some real good inside information here and access to certain information that other teams didn't have. Let's hear from Nick Bobrov when asked about Demidov and when he started to catch their attention.
Ivan for a number of years now, and because of my dad's position and knowing young players in that organization is a big part of his job. So we knew the kid, the family really well. I was fortunate enough to get there a couple of times and spend time with him and his family, we felt that we might have a chance at him, but not a significant one. And it worked out. I mean, clearly he was very happy to end up in Montreal. His family was looking forward to that. And part of the reason he wanted to be in Montreal is because he loves pressure. And he embraces pressure and thrives on it. And so, sometimes we ask kids whether or not they will be okay playing in the city, but he was begging for it, so that's a good sign.
Kent was saying yesterday that it was one of the best interviews with Demidov. I'm curious to know, is he even more impressive when he's talking in his own language with you in Russian?
He's impressive if he were speaking any language. He exudes, as Marty said, a very healthy confidence. That has a lot of appreciation, empathy, and respect for other people. You meet him and you kind of feel it. We felt like in that meeting or any other meeting, his air for healthy confidence is always there. He believes in himself. But not at the expense of, his ego by any means. So it was very, very impressive, and I think he'll continue to impress.
Martin St. Louis talks often about the ceiling of a player. What kind of ceiling do you see for Hage?
What kind of what?
Ceiling.
Oh, ceiling. I think it's very high. It's very, very high. He's been compared to, Kucherov, Kaprizov, and but it's a little bit of everything in there. So his ceiling is as high as some of the best players in the league, and he expects nothing less than that from himself, which is the most important part.
So you agree with Martin? Maybe the steal of the draft.
Absolutely. That's an understatement.
All right, there you have it. Steal of the draft. That's an understatement. But, everyone is really, really happy with this pick. I'm really happy with this pick. I said last night, at no point, even if he doesn't end up playing to his full potential, will I say anything bad about the pick, because I'm a guy who likes offense. Everything I do is on the attack. It's the attack-minded players that have been my favorite players. Those are the players that I pay to go watch. Those are the players that I pay to go see. And those are the players that I think the fan base was starving for. Having said all that, steal of the draft. You find that a little bit excessive, steal of the draft, because we know Celebrini's going 1. Demidov goes 5. Is he a steal?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Just like, my.
But he's not a steal if the other teams draft by position. But pardon me, by need. Like if Anaheim really wanted Seneca because he's 6'4".
Yeah, and so is Lidstrom. Yeah, I do understand the whole
two
point.
guys are 6'4", and one guy is the best all-rounded defenseman in the draft. I mean,
Yeah,
those
but
teams are taking those guys on purpose.
Yeah, but look, in the top 5, you don't care about needs. You just have the best player available. And I think if Chicago went for defenseman, I think this is wrong because Lev Shunov is no Kale McCarr. So that was a mind-boggling pick. I like Lev Shunov. I think he's going to be good. But at number 2, that's a reach in my book. Beckett Seneca loved him, ranked him 4th, vice president of his fan club, as you know. But again, I can understand Seneca a little bit more, but Lindstrom, totally, mind-boggling. That Caden Lindstrom, I really thought Columbus was going with Demidov yesterday while watching the draft. It's absolutely mind-boggling that they would take Lindstrom in front of Demidov, and I know that, or I think that had Demidov been taken by Columbus, Montreal would have taken Lindstrom. Honestly, this is probably one of the most defining moments in the last 20 years of the Habs history.
They wanted the biggest power forward in the draft. They wanted insulation at center for Adam Fantilli. You take a look at the way teams win the Stanley Cup. It's hard to argue they win with a 1-2 punch at center.
Yeah, but look, I understand about centermen, how important they are.
Yeah,
and I know Demidov is not a centerman. But, I'm going way back, but Guy Lafleur was a right winger, and no one thought of him. I don't know if you've seen him play at his peak because you're a little bit younger than I am. But Guy Lafleur, no one ever thought of saying at the time, well, he's a winger. No, he was the driver of he was driving a line. And I think Demidov can drive a line, whether he plays wing or not, even if he plays wing. That's my point.
Awesome stuff. All right, okay. So much more to get to. The day 2 picks, Aatos Koivu, we'll get to him. But Michael Hage, you said you liked him. The Canadiens made a trade early in the day yesterday where they traded 3 picks to move up 5 picks to get 1 pick. So they trade 26, 57, and what was it? 198 or something, 178, forget it, whatever it was. I had it yesterday. And in return to Los Angeles, they get Los Angeles' pick number 21. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but I was hearing, ever since I've been here, I was hearing that the Canadiens are really in love with Michael Hage.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I went out yesterday and I did a report, and the second I found out about the trade, I said the Canadiens obviously have someone or something in mind, and don't be surprised. Keep an eye out for Michael Hage. They like him a lot. And should he be available, he's the guy they're going to pick. They picked. I think his coach came out earlier today. Do we have what his coach had to say by any chance? His coach with the Chicago Steel. All right, I think I have it here. Let me just bring it up for you. Okay, his coach for the Chicago Steel, Mike Garman, says Michael Hage's game took off as the year went along. Down the stretch and into the playoffs, he was one of the most dominant players in the league. Give me your thoughts on Michael Hage.
Well, Michael Hage was one of the top 17-year-old players in the USHL. And my thoughts on him is that he's a very good puck handler. He has great moves, great hands. He's a very, very fast skater. And I would say that he's probably in the second tier in terms of talent in this draft, which means that he has very good hands, but he doesn't have Demidov's hands. Had he had Demidov's hands, he would have been a top 5 pick too. But he has very good hands. So to me, I see him as a possible number 2 center on a championship team. And if not, because, of how the Habs will organize their top 6, I see at least an absolutely fantastic number 3 center. And what I mean by number 3 center is that sometimes we talk about third liners and it's like, oh, they're grinders and, they're just plugs and everything. No, this guy could be a third line center scoring 40, 45 points, let's say, or a second line center scoring 60 points or 65 points, depending on how the depth chart is, I would say.
A third line center on a team that could win the cup.
Pardon me?
A third line center on a team that could win the cup.
Yeah, and maybe a second line center. But like I say, they already have Suzuki and Dot.
Yeah,
so
but what I'm saying is if one day he's a third line centerman on the Montreal Canadiens,
they win the cup.
You'd have to think they're a cup contender.
Oh, yeah, they win the cup. If this guy is the number 3 center in Montreal and he scores like 40, 45 points, they win the cup.
I think he's going to score more than 40, 45. But anyway, if
but it depends on but it depends on power play time.
Yeah, I get it.
My point. It could be up to 60, 65 also, depending on how they use him. But at some point, you can only have so many guys on the power play.
Yeah. He's better than Phil Danault.
Of course.
Well, because Phil Danault is a guy that...
No, Philippe Danault is a good defensive player, and he has a little bit of offense in him. But Michael Hage, this guy can really handle the puck. I mean, I've seen him shift guys and skate like the wind and create opportunities. He has a great shot, by the way, a great shot. So no, he, to me, will be a better player than Philippe Danault. And I mean, Danault is a pretty darn good player.
I don't know. Listen, I brought it up because Phil Danault at one point was like a second line centerman of the Montreal Canadiens. And a lot of people were saying if one day he becomes a third line centerman on the Canadiens, then we know that the Montreal Canadiens have a serious cup contending team. He was a player on the Montreal Canadiens that did go to the Stanley Cup final. He has had a season of 27 goals in the National Hockey League, albeit it happened with Los Angeles. Seasons of 51 and 54 points with Los Angeles and 53 points with the Canadiens. And that's why I brought it up. A lot of people here are telling me that he would be an upgrade on a player like that. And once again, if that happens, well, that would mean that the Canadiens are really, really, really good at that point. Okay. A shout out to Energy Transportation Group. They're a leading full service logistics provider serving all of North America. They are driven to be different, and they are one of our sponsors. Also, I'd like to talk about Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the hot summer days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. And special thanks to another one of our sponsors, Playground. Experience Playground's world-renowned poker experience with free food and drinks at their cash game tables, a bad beat jackpot that's over $1.1 million in climbing, weekly promotions, daily tournaments, unmatched customer service. Why play anywhere else? Located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. Playground. All right, okay. Aatos Koivu was the Canadiens' pick earlier today. They got him in the 3rd round because, of course, the Canadiens did not have a pick in the 2nd round. And he goes 70th overall. And Martin Lapointe was asked whether the Koivu bloodline had something to do in the selection. Isaku's son, did it have anything to do with it? Let's hear from Martin Lapointe.
Beaucoup Aatos joué durant la saison. C'est un petit gars qui est très responsable sur la patinoire, un gars qui est vraiment dédié à la game de hockey. Et puis c'est sûr que son père a joué, donc le bloodline du talent de Sakou reflète beaucoup sur le talent Aatos. Donc on aime sa responsabilité sur la glace. Et puis c'est un petit gars qui va juste s'améliorer.
Tu vois-tu comme un centre?
Comment?
Tu vois-tu comme un centre?
C'est un centre, oui. Oui, c'est un centre. Ouais.
Pas un projet à long terme, un peu plus peut-être, parce que c'est un gars qui s'est développé beaucoup, je pense, dernièrement.
Oui, c'est sûr qu'il a des belles habiletés. Il est responsable et puis il fait des jeux, une bonne tête de hockey. Il a un bon lancer. Physiquement, c'est là qu'il faut qu'il se renforcisse. Et puis, on est confiant qu'il va faire.
All right, there you have it. A very responsible player on the ice, very defensively responsible player, a player who cares, a player who's competitive, a player who's been a little bit of a late bloomer, a player who has still a lot of room for growth, considering that he's Saku's son, of course. The bloodline is something that's important. You have some of Saku's pedigree there in Aatos. That's Martin Lapointe talking about Aatos Koivu. Do you like this pick?
No.
Why?
To me, he's kind of a blah player. I don't see much of a future for this guy. But look, he was picked number 70. I'm just going to do a little preamble here. I mean, any guys chosen between rounds 3 and 7, most of them will not make the NHL. So I'm not going to jump off the bridge. But you're asking me if there were other guys that I would have picked before Koivu at number 70 that I thought had a better chance of having some kind of impact in the NHL, I would have said yes. I'm not crazy about the pick because, yes, he has a good shot. I don't think he has a great hockey sense. I don't think he's that good defensively. And offensively, he has some skills, but they're not terrific. So what do you do with that kind of player? Can he become a bottom 6 player? I doubt it.
Can you teach hockey sense?
No.
You don't think you can teach hockey sense?
No.
Well,
I think you can improve little things here and there, but I think you are who you are in terms of hockey sense as a player. That's my opinion.
No,
but
I've had this conversation.
It's also Tony that his skills are not tremendous. So, you know, in order to make the NHL, you have to have at least, even if you're a bottom 6 player, most of the time, bottom 6 players in the NHL were impact players at the junior level. Aatos Koivu is not an impact level player at the junior level. So unfortunately, I don't see much of a future for him. Maybe his name will help him, get to Laval and perhaps play on as a 4th liner. Who knows? But again, he's a 3rd round pick. Not much should be expected of 3rd round picks. It was just disappointing. They didn't throw darts on other guys.
It just bothers me because we're going to hear this. We've already started to hear it. I saw it on social media, and now I'm reading it in the comments that it's a marketing tool, and he was picked by the same way Louis Leblanc was picked. That's why they picked Aatos Koivu. I don't believe that. I believe that's bullshit. I believe in bloodline. I believe in pedigree. I understand that it's not because Saku was a good player that it necessarily means that his son's going to be a good player, but I believe that when you're a son of an NHL player, you're kind of living with a coach. Based on what I hear, he's a late bloomer. He played with in different levels, in different competitions. He always had to push a little bit more. He's Saku's son. He's hardworking. I believe he's going to turn out to be a good defensively responsible player, and I believe he'll be a very competitive player. I think what the Canadiens tried to do this weekend was talent and character, but character was very important. It seemed to be the theme of the 2024 draft for the Canadiens, character, and I think this kid has it.
Look, that's your opinion. We'll see in a few years.
He's also, his dad was the captain of the most storied franchise in the history of the National Hockey League. Of a team in the most pressure city, most pressure hockey market in the entire world. He was very young. I get it. When his father was playing in the National Hockey League. But I think, you know what? I think this pick's going to turn out to be okay. Now,
we'll see.
Could you have gone for a more offensive player and kind of like, go boom or bust? Yeah. But I think this kid's going to play in the National Hockey League.
We'll see.
All right, okay. Let's bring up the chart again, once again, with their picks. You said you gave the Canadiens an A+ yesterday for their round 1. with Demidov and Hage. I think we're off to a bad start here after what you said about Aatos Koivu. But Koivu, Sawyer, Protz, Thorpe, Vegvanix, Merrill, Cannon, Bergfist. What's the grade you gave them today for day 2?
Well, based on the fact that they're 3rd to 7th round picks, obviously, I would give it, maybe a C. But my overall grade would still be an A for the Habs, because what really matters is Demidov and Hage. So I might downgrade the whole draft from A+ to A, because the rest, it's not a big deal if these guys don't make it, or if they're just like, fourth-line players. It's not a big deal. Starting on round 3, we're all throwing darts. They chose to throw darts a certain way that I would have done differently, but every team has their strategy. I look at Calgary, what they did. They threw darts on pure skill. Is it going to work? Who knows? Maybe not. Last year, the Canadiens drafted 3 goalies. I like the idea. They were throwing darts on goalie, hoping that one would stick. I like the idea. This year, there's overagers. There are character guys, but I don't know. I can't be very enthusiastic about this crop of players from 3 to 7, unfortunately.
Okay, so in a nutshell, if Demidov ends up being a frontline winger more than a point per game, and Michael Hage ends up being a number 2 center in the National Hockey League, 60-point seasons, this is out of the Canadiens hit it out of the park.
Yeah, it'll be an A+. When we do when we grade a redraft, let's say in 5 years, if Demidov becomes a 90-point player, Hage is a second-line center, scores, I don't know, 60 points or whatever, this is an A+ draft. So doesn't matter really what happened between rounds 3 to 7. It's just that, like I say, it's just the way you throw darts. I think teams all have a philosophy, and what they did doesn't match with what I would have done. But I'm not the decision maker.
All right, here's Nick Bobrov on the Canadiens' day 2 picks. He talked about some of them very quickly.
With the last pick of the draft, Bergqvist is a big left shot defenseman who plays in the Skellefteå junior team, one of the best organizations in Sweden. There is a lot of room to grow even taller and get bigger. At that point of the draft, you look for longer term potential, which usually resides in Europe or kids going to college. So the player profile fit what usually hits late in the draft. So our area scouts felt that he would be a good bet. Makar Hanin is a player with a lot of skill, playing in Russia in the VHL, which is a very tough minor league to play in because players are older and the travel is pretty heavy. So for a very young kid, he managed to separate himself this year. We followed him all year. And he's a player with a lot of skill, flair, and kind of like a Demidov light. So, we swung for the fences, and it's one of those boom or bust picks. So we felt that we need to swing at some high-end skill and bring character and size to the fold as well with the picks of, you asked about Protz and Thorpe, who is a very big kid, 6'5". Ben Merrill, another big centerman with a long runway, with hardness, size, and which is not easy to get. So we felt with each pick we wanted to make sure that the player has some uniqueness to them, unique qualities, and not just bring another guy. So we felt we accomplished that.
The goalie?
The goalie, actually, he's going to play in Blainville.
Oh, yeah?
The goalie. So
You're from the queue.
You're from the queue, right? So, Vinny was really, really high on him. We watched him, at the U18, and we thought he had some upside, and that was Vinny's pick, and we both saw him, and he's going to play in Blainville this year.
See how happy everyone was? Actually, he's going to play in Blainville. He's playing in the queue. He's playing in the queue. So they didn't draft any players from the queue, but because they have a player who's going to the queue, everyone got like, oh my God, he's going to play.
I think it's good. I like the fact that they drafted the goalie who's going to be playing junior hockey. Goalies, you just draft them, and at some point, someone pops out. So I think this is a good strategy. They drafted 3 last year. I liked it.
Yes, and of course, the draft wouldn't be complete if the media didn't ask why the Montreal Canadiens didn't draft any good as chez nous.
Yeah.
And so the question was asked. Let's hear Martin Lapointe answer the question.
Ça n'a pas tombé pour les gars de chez nous cette année. Quoi. Je sais que la question, vous ne l'aimez pas. Là.
Non, mais c'est pas. C'est pas qu'on veut pas repêcher des Québécois, c'est que il faut que tu aies le timing aussi. On veut repêcher des Québécois, on aime les Québécois, on ne met pas une base les Québécois, mais on a repêché des gens qui parlent français. Donc, c'est un plus. C'est sûr que moi et Nick, on a aimé ça, aller en chercher des Québécois. Cette année, c'était pas l'année. Mais comme j'ai dit, il n'y a pas une croix sur le Québec.
Est-ce que Québec peuvent s'attendre à une invitation pour le camp de développement?
Oui, ça c'est sûr. On va aller travailler là-dessus dès maintenant, après qu'on part d'ici. On arrange le camp de développement, donc on va l'inviter, puis on a de la place.
Mais pour vous, il y a hors de tout doute au 7e tour, il n'y a pas un Québécois qui valait plus la peine de s'essayer que les overagers russes et suédois que vous avez choisis?
Il n'en reste plus des Québécois, je pense, en 7e tour. C'était rendu loin. Là. Mais je peux te dire une affaire, en 6e, on en cherchait un, puis il était pigé.
All right, there you have it. Marty Lapointe, who says, look, we got nothing against Quebec-born players. We would have liked to have had some Quebec-born players. Unfortunately, just the timing, it didn't work out or where we saw them and where we were picking. Then he was asked, you know what, wouldn't you want to take a Quebecer instead of an overage Russian player or a Swede late in the draft the way you did? And he said there were no Quebec players left from the 7th round on. And he said, look, we wanted one in the 6th, but before it got to us, he was picked. So what can I tell you? Now, what do you make of this, that the Canadiens didn't draft any Quebec-born players, which is something that seems to happen more and more often, more and more frequently.
There's not a great year for the queue. However, when you get to the 3rd, 4th round, okay, there were none left in the 6th or 7th round that they liked. But why didn't they draft them in the 3rd or 4th? Why didn't they take a flyer on Justin Poirier? The guy scores 51 goals at age 17. I understand he's 5'7", they have Cole Caulfield already. I do get it. But the guy can be an asset. You know, this is for years down the road. You accumulate assets. I realized that what they did, they wanted guys that they could watch for like 4 years before having to make a decision about signing them, whereas junior players only 2 years.
Correct.
So they didn't draft a lot of junior players anyway. So I think that was the idea. And a lot of teams do that. And that's what the USHL is. So many players drafted, although the USHL is a weaker league than the Canadian junior leagues. So I think the rule plays against Canadian players.
But you have 4 years there, and you're not going to play as many games. You're going to be able to spend more time in the gym. You're going to be able to develop at your own pace. You're going to be able to bulk up. You're going to be able to put on some weight. You're going to be able to put on some muscle mass. The Canadiens have been going with that philosophy with certain leagues that develop in some of the later rounds. But I'm going to tell you this, Snake. Instead of several members of the media, or maybe even fans, making a stink of Canadians not taking Quebec-born players, why don't they ask themselves why the number of players being drafted out of Quebec is not a big number? 15 players out of 225 players. What's happening with the Quebec League? Why are the numbers not as much as they should be? What is happening with Hockey Quebec? What is happening with development with hockey players in Quebec? I think that's the thing that needs to be asked. And by the way, though, you will see, and this is where the media makes me laugh sometimes, is that they're not going to go as hard on this topic as they've gone in previous years. Ask me why.
Why do you think, Tony?
Because it was easy for them to pick on Trevor Timmins. Trevor Timmins, c'est un Anglais. So we can hammer him for not taking players who are Français. But now, Martin Lapointe is there. And so we're going to take it easy on Martin. They asked him today, and believe you me, it's going to go away, or it won't be as powerful a punch. You agree with me? Just say yes, because I like it when you do. Say yes.
I don't know. It's possible.
But
Martin Lapointe, in my book, is an American.
Hey, c'est un gars de Ville-Saint-Pierre, man. They even named an arena after him.
He went to my high school, Tony. He was younger than me. We didn't cross paths, but he went to my high school. And I heard very good things about him because I was in contact with some teachers, you know. So but the guy has been living in the States for 30 years now. So at some point, these guys, you know, they don't see it.
He played in American markets. Nice guy.
Yeah, he played in American markets. That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, it doesn't really matter. My point is that, you know, there were a couple of defensemen that I liked in the queue as defensive defensemen. Obviously, I would not have taken them in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
But starting in the 3rd round, Thomas Lavoie and Alexis Bernier from Bécomo, they were drafted.
Yeah.
You know, that could have been options because, you know,
a little bit sad that Martin has to justify it by saying that a couple of the players that we took, they speak French. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Because what are we doing here? Are we running politics? Or are we trying to build a team that's going to win the Stanley Cup? Who's making the decisions here?
Honestly, Tony,
or what? What's the story here?
We could have drafted 12 guys from the Western Hockey League. I would have been fine with it.
It's always the same story.
I'm not the biggest cheerleader of Quebec hockey or French Canadian players, contrary to what people might think, because I'm francophone. No, I've worked in the queue. No, I mean, I realize that there's not that many players from the queue that deserve to be drafted.
Hey, we want the queue to do well, right? Correct me if we want the
I
queue
want them to do well, but I did a little research.
If you had a 17-year-old son today, where would you tell him to go play?
Oh, in the queue.
You would tell him to go play in the queue? I don't believe you.
Yeah, I would.
Why?
I would. Why not?
What does it have over the States? What does it have? The 10, 12, 13, 14-hour bus rides? The doing your homework on the bus and sometimes not doing your homework at all because you're fatigued? The playing the amount of games that you have to play and you're actually burning out, which actually makes you more susceptible to injury?
NCAA players, don't tell me that NCAA players, they're all studying biology.
I didn't say that they were.
So let's not make this.
They got more time to study. They got more time in the gym. They got more time to relax. They got more time to recover. They got more time to work on their body. They got more time to work on their development. They got more time to practice. They have less time in the bus. They have less time traveling.
You know what? It prepares you for life in the NHL. Okay, and instead of going to
whatever, you don't make a career.
Oh, look, it always depends on. I'm talking about, top players who have a chance to play in the NHL. I think the CHL is a better school for the NHL because you play for an Ivy League school, Tony. You're going to play. Look at Louis Leblanc playing 28 games in Harvard.
Okay,
and then the guy drops out. It's always he's got to get his degree from Harvard. No, they don't get their degree from Harvard. They just go there to play hockey. And they take.
I'm gonna tell you something. I believe that if the player is, every case is different. But if a player really needs to play a lot of games, then you can look at the queue, of course. Yeah. But if a player is not in that kind of situation, I believe for the masses, for the majority, it's USHL, it's NCAA over playing in the queue. And Mario Cecchini is a gentleman. He's a good friend of mine. We're staying at the same hotel. We crossed paths yesterday. We had a nice conversation. I want the league to do well. And I also like what Mario said today. He says, hey, this has to serve as a wake-up call. Good for you, Mario. But you know what? I wouldn't choose the Quebec League over playing in the States.
But look, Tony, let's be realistic here, okay? Because I have dealt with a lot of parents, not Quebecois parents, American parents from the New England states, we were trying to recruit them to come and play in the queue. These guys never come. Well, except a couple of exceptions here and there. And the thinking is that all these 15, 16-year-old kids who play in, arenas throughout New England in very, very poor caliber hockey, they all think that they're going to get a scholarship, a full scholarship. Well, guess what? There's not that many scholarships available. So it's not a matter of a parent having a 13, 14-year-old kid and say, oh, go to the States, get a scholarship and play. Look, you think Michigan or Boston University and Boston College, they hand out scholarships like, Santa Claus hands out gifts on Christmas Day?
I would imagine they don't. And I believe I read somewhere that at one point, I think they give out 9.9 scholarships over a 4-year span. I don't know if that number is still accurate. I could be wrong. But for example, if they give out 4 scholarships at 25%, it ends up accounting for 1.
Yeah.
So you can get partial scholarships. But listen, I know this. I know that not everyone's going to get a scholarship. And I know that school in the States is very expensive. And I know that some families have to actually remortgage their house in order to pay for it. But if you get that degree from that school, that carries a lot of weight on a piece of paper. And I'm going to tell you, if you're not going to make it in sports, you're going to make it somewhere else. You're going to make it for the rest of your life, because the networking.
But that's a different story, Tony. That's a different story.
Yeah, I understand that.
And you know what? A good student is a good student wherever they go. So, the excuse that, they play in the queue, they don't do their homework. Well, guess what? If they didn't play in the queue, would they really do their homework?
What did you make of the Vegas Golden Knights drafting Trevor Connolly the way they did, where they did?
Well, I think with all due respect to Demidov as a steal, because I do think is a steal, I think that since Connolly was drafted 19, that is the real biggest steal of the draft.
That's the biggest steal of the draft.
Yeah, because he's going to be a top 5 player.
I ran into him, when was it? Yesterday morning at the Westin Hotel. I'm staying at the Venetian, by the way. And I ran into him at the Westin. The Canadiens were staying at the Fontainebleau. Several teams were staying at the Encore. And here you have it, Trevor Connolly. And he was walking by as I was having a coffee with my buddy Shane Gaumont here. And he was walking by the hallway. And I said to him, Trevor. He said, yes. I said, I need to talk to you. He said, no problem. I said, I have a very good friend of mine. His name is Simon the Snake Boisvert. I call him Serpent. And he's one of Quebec's big-time scouts and eyes for talent. And he says to me that you are one of the top talents in this draft. And he looked at me and he said, your friend has good eyes. I'm actually making that part up. He didn't say that.
I'm rooting for him. Well, I'm rooting for him because if this guy doesn't
very much. That's what he said. Tom, thank you very much.
Well, if this guy doesn't become as good as I think he will be, I mean, my credibility will be really, really down the drain.
Oh, really, eh?
Well, yeah, because
you're not worried about this. I can tell you something. Don't be worried about that stuff.
I do this.
I'd rather talk to people like you that are not scared of their opinions and will give their opinions and will end up being wrong, because the more opinions you give to more questions or more subject matters, the more you're going to be wrong.
Especially predicting the future of a hockey player.
Okay.
I always say it's much easier
like you than people who say, yeah, I think he could be good, but it's also possible that he could be average, and it could be that he won't be good. What have you told me? You've told me nothing. I can pick up the phone, call my mother. My mother can tell me he's either going to be good, he's either going to be no good, or he's either going to be average.
Tony, it's like these insiders. Oh, this guy could be traded, but it's possible that he stays put.
That's right. I don't like stuff like that.
Okay.
With me, it's black or it's white. That's it. There's no in between here.
And you know what, Tony? Predicting the future of a hockey player is much harder than talking about yesterday's game.
But besides that, you know what? There's a lot of people that sit on the fence and they make a lot of money. I don't understand how these networks give it to them. At the end, they say everything, but they say nothing.
Yeah, and people love them.
It's unbelievable.
And it would be very easy. It would have been very easy for me to draw this list, put Connolly at number 13.
Yeah.
No one would have cared. Oh, Connolly at number 13. Yeah, I put him in the top 3. And then it's like, this guy's just trying to get attention. He's crazy, doesn't know hockey. Look, I'm not doing it to get attention. I'm not crazy, but maybe he'll prove me wrong. And then people are going to say I didn't evaluate him well, I guess.
Okay, in the end, you didn't like the Montreal Canadiens draft today, but you did like their draft yesterday. And for you, the top 2 picks that they had in the first round, that's what's most important, because it's the first round picks that have the most chance of playing in the National Hockey League. There are 2 players that you absolutely love. You believe that Michael Hage's top ceiling could be that of a second-line centerman in the National Hockey League, and that Demidov could be a superstar winger in the National Hockey League, correct?
Yeah. Look, I'm going to say something tonight that I've been waiting to say for years because I wasn't sure. But, a lot of people were asking me, do you think that at some point the Habs can become cup contenders? Do you think they can become cup contenders? And under Marc Bergevin, I always said no. I know they reached the finals in 2021, but I mean on a consistent basis. And I said the day that I think the Habs at some point have the core to become cup contenders for years and years and years at some point, I'll let you know. Well, Saturday, June 29, 2024, I'm telling you now, with Kent Hughes at the helm, with Demidov being drafted yesterday, with the way Slavkovsky played, I can tell you that within a few years, the Habs will have a run of 5 to 7 years where they will be cup contenders the way Tampa Bay is, the way Colorado is, the way Vegas is. And this is going to be the best years of Montreal hockey since the 70s. Not saying they're going to win 4 cups in a row. It doesn't happen anymore. But what I'm talking is every year in September, people will really realistically have a chance, will think that the Habs have a real chance. Over the last 30 years, did not have a real chance. I mean, it was just wishful thinking.
Now
so I'm telling you tonight, this is it. I mean, starting maybe in 20, I don't know what year, maybe 2027, 26, whatever, the Habs are going to have a 5 to 7 year run where they will be cup contenders. Will they win one? I don't know. It takes a lot of, circumstances and luck to win a cup. But just the fact that they will be contenders, I mean, the Bell Center is going to go nuts for all this time.
I want season tickets starting in 2025. That's when Demidov is going to join the Canadiens. He's going to spend 1 year in Russia. In 2025, he's going to join them. And I want to be on a season ticket list. I want my season tickets at that point. I can't go to all 41 games in the regular season and the 4 or 5 in the preseason, but I can split them with 1 or 2 people, and we can end up choosing our games. Because, of course, I can't go to them all because I got to do the podcast that night, weeknights at 10 o'clock at night, right? So I can only go to Saturday night games. So if you want to split the tickets, you go during the week, I go on the weekend. Why not?
Let's talk about it.
A while, but I finally turned.
That would be a great arrangement for me because I'm more available during the week for this thing.
I finally turned the Montreal Canadiens hater into a Montreal Canadiens lover.
No,
that's
I've
what
never
I've been
been a
able to
hater.
do with Simo, the Snake Boisvert, the guy I call Serpent. It took a while. No one was able to do it, but I was able to do it. Snake, I'm going to leave you on that. Have a good Saturday night.
Salut, Tony.
All right. Special thanks to all of our sponsors and our NHL Draft Covers 2024 brought to you by Betway Canada. Betway, I want to give them a shout out. Right now. Betway is a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go on betway.com. Scan the QR code. Join the action. Must be 18 and over. And play responsibly. Special thanks to Energy Transportation Group, Bittt Tibi, and Playground. Thank you to Shane Gaumont, Sammy Cavallaro, Anthony Marinaro, Agnello Cavallaro, Rosa Mariani. Thank you all for watching on this Saturday night. The Canadiens draft is over. The draft is over. Our vacation is over. It wasn't vacation, it was work. Can we go out now? Yeah, we're going now. Where are we going? Fremont? Circa? Good night for now. Ciao from Las Vegas.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast. is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.